So there was an Oklahoma University junior student, psychology student, who is now catching national news because she is filing a religious discrimination suit or claim against the school for a psychology essay response. It was like 650 words or something. And so she's kind of catching national news. I wanted to go over this story and kind of give you my thoughts because, I love being in school, and I do feel like I have a different kind of way of just my experience. I was a public school kid all the way through high school, graduated from a public high school, and then went into a private Christian university for my undergrad and graduate studies. And man, I love my time in the classroom. Who knows, might go back. I don't know. But I did want to talk about this because I do think it is kind of important and I can get really passionate about it. So we'll see how this goes. I don't want to give you any more information. I want to go ahead and read this article. It's from CBS. And then I think the other one is from a local Fox affiliate in the Oklahoma area near the university and things. And so this is what it says. It says an instructor at the University of Oklahoma has been placed on leave after a student complained that she received a failing grade on a paper that cited the Bible to assert that belief in multiple genders was demonic. Samantha Fulnecki, 20 years old, she's the junior. She filed the complaint with the administration, and it's this big debate on academic freedom, college campuses, especially amidst some of the policies over the last few years, Department of Education, all that stuff. It's been kind of a mess. And so anyway, the university made a statement and said OU remains firmly committed to the fairness, respect, and protecting every student's right to express sincerely held religious beliefs, the university wrote in an email. They also added that the failing grade was supposed to account for 3% of her final grade, would not affect her academic standing. The discrimination case is still ongoing. She wrote that she was frustrated by the premise of the article. This is the student, because she didn't believe that there are more than two genders based on her own understanding of the Bible. This was according to a copy of her essay. We'll read that in just a little bit. Here's where I think this is where we're going to start shifting just a little bit. In an interview with KWTV, I think that's what we're about to switch over to in just a little bit, she said she believed she should have gotten a perfect score. She said, "We have been getting these papers all semester. I've written them all the same, and I've gotten 100 on all of them up until this point." Here's what she says. "I didn't specifically cite one verse of the Bible or one portion of the Bible, but the instructions asked us to pull from our understanding and our personal experiences and give thoughtful reaction based on our prior experiences and knowledge." It was broken down on a 25-point basis on how well they demonstrated the understanding of the article and addressed specific aspects of the argument. She reportedly got 0 points for her work, said that they did not answer the questions, contradicted itself, heavily uses personal ideology over empirical evidence, and is at times offensive. So then there was a second teacher who also said that they agreed with the initial thing, and that's kind of where this goes. I don't know what that is doing, but I want to go ahead and read some of this article for you because let's read this. It says this article, this is her essay in this thing about gender norms in society. "This article was very thought-provoking and caused me to thoroughly evaluate the idea of gender and the role it plays in our society." Okay. "The article discussed peers using teasing as a way to enforce gender norms. I do not necessarily see this as a problem." Okay. So you're going to be a Christian and you're going to say that teasing and bullying, especially among adolescents, A-okay. All right. How are you going to defend this? "God made male and female and made us differently from each other on purpose and for a purpose." Now, this is something that I might say in a message or speaking engagement or whatever, but when you're writing an academic kind of response, like these taglines and phrases, and I would call that Christianese, it's kind of the Christian jargon, it doesn't really fit, right? Even in a Christian university or setting like I was in, like Christian jargon, like pastoral speak, doesn't really fit here. Here's what I think is like one of the best parts of this article. "God made female and all that stuff. He's very intentional with what he makes, and I believe trying to change that would only do more harm. Gender and tendencies, okay, gender roles and tendencies should not be considered stereotypes. Women naturally want to do womanly things because God made and created us with those womanly desires in our hearts. The same goes for men. God created men in the image of his courage and strength, and he created women in the image of his beauty. He intentionally created women differently than men, and we should live our lives with that in mind. It is frustrating to me when I read articles like this and discussion posts from my classmates and so many people who are trying to conform to the same mundane opinion so they don't step on people's toes. I think it's cowardly and insincere. I think it's important to use the freedom of speech, all this stuff. Then she talks and kind of goes after her classmates. She also says this. In Genesis, God says that it's not good for a man to be alone. So he created a helper for man, which is woman. Most many people assume that the word helper in this context is condescending. She then tries to explain the Greek and all this stuff about where that is, which is hilarious. Oh, no, she does use the Hebrew, actually. Sorry. So she does use the Hebrew in this. I was about to be like, man, you're not even using the right thing. But she does use the Hebrew. She tries to do some exegesis of the what the original meaning is and all this stuff. Here's the problem. It says in this other article over here, if it will ever go over, I guess it won't. That's fine. In the first article that I read, it says that she didn't quote scripture. It says that she didn't think that it was necessary to use citations and quotes and all this stuff, which if you're a junior in a university and you're not citing sources, that's like freshman stuff. Like if you're a freshman, I can understand, hey man, maybe you've never really done citations outside of a couple of, English papers or whatever. Like you have to cite everything. And so the fact that, you're like, I didn't cite anything, but I kind of generally talked about these things. No, I need the scripture reference. I'm sure that would have helped at least to be able to give a reference. I'm not talking about like officially citating things. Like you don't have to necessarily do that. But man, you got to be able to bring your sources. You got to be able to write on a level that is a little bit more professional, a little bit higher than just women do womanly things and men do menly things. Like that's not gonna cut it. And so for this student to start claiming religious discrimination, like you just wrote a bad paper. Sorry, you just wrote a bad response. And there's a level of me that can be sympathetic to Christian ideas and all this stuff. Like I get it. But I got to jump off of this when I read the article with my own eyes and see it. And I'm like, dude, this might pass as a Christian, like high school paper or response or whatever. This is not college level, especially, your junior year college level work, and shouldn't be treated that way. And I'm personally glad that, people are holding people's feet to the fire when it comes to academics. Man, I love being in the classroom. I love that. And I love when, professors or whatever will come back and say, you didn't do this right. You cited this wrong. You could have written this better or whatever. That's always a good thing. And so for you to just kind of take your ball and run home because they got mad at me for being a Christian, I really don't think that's what this is. And, I know this is academics and all this stuff, but it does remind me of creatively, people who do music or do movies or do TV show or art or whatever. And just because they slap a Christian artist on it, they just mean like, hey, every Christian is supposed to be on my side on this. And if you're not, then you don't love Jesus and you're not accepting my gifts and all this stuff. It's like, no. You just made a really bad song. You just made a really terrible movie. You just made a really bad piece of art. Like it's not that I hate you. It's not that I hate that you're, doing it for the Lord or whatever, but like, it's just really bad. And that's kind of how I feel after I read this. I don't think that it's as deep as, them using the ideology of, a Christian framework and saying, oh, we're against this. Now, I'm sure that they would push back and say, well, you can't put your faith in here. It seems like they were trying to use empirical data over personal experience. And so that's where I can be a little bit more like, okay, well, then what really was it? And I probably will never know because I wasn't in the class. But I can say that from what I read, man, this is not a good representation of academics. It's not a good representation of Christian academics. Like this is garbage. It's garbage. And yeah, let me know what you think. Is this religious discrimination? Is this something that is a problem in universities? I personally don't think it is, especially if it's written this poorly. Man, I don't hold to that. So let me know what you think in the comments. Would love to hear from you. Have a great rest of your day.